saving themselves by treading water or by clinging to the bottom of the overturned vessel until they could be snatched to safety by fire and other rescue boats rushing to the scene. A scene which happened in full view of horrified spectators on shore. In just a few minutes, we'll be going live to Lake George for all the details on this terrible tragedy. Here then, the rest of the show.
He melts into the restaurant crowd, anonymous and unnoticed by the tourists and other patrons at the Raja Cafe. The young man disappears from camera frame. An instant later, he becomes a human bomb. Tonight we'll be live from Bali with the latest on the 3 near-simultaneous bombings that brought terror back to paradise. Crime is the opposite of paradise. I know I've been to the hardcore Al-Qaeda stronghold on Iraq-Syrian border. The scene today of another sweep by U.S. forces, aimed at rooting out the militants in the region. But we sweep, they run, we leave, they come back. Tonight, how can that circle bring victory? Also, where is Taylor Beal? The 17-year-old Virginia co-ed's been missing for a month. Cops searched the home of one older guy who admitted having sex with her. Now he's charged with child porn, but no sign of Taylor. Tonight, her dad joins us live. Those stories plus Anna Nicole goes to the Supremes. I'm back on Saturday night, and Atlanta's Ashley Smith's in the clear. So stand by. We are live and at large in New York City and around the world.
That wicked disaster which resulted in the drowning deaths of 21 senior citizens in upstate New York is later in the program. Up front tonight, police in Indonesia have raised the terror alert for the country's capital as their president warns of more attacks today in the wake of yesterday's triple suicide bombings that killed 26 people on Bali and wounded over 100 more, including a half-dozen American tourists. One of the attacks was captured on home video. Now watch as the suicide bomber blends into the crowd, disappears for an instant, only to reappear in the form of a human bomb. I'm not actually video. This attack and the other 2 blasts are believed to be the deadly handiwork of an Al-Qaeda-linked group called Jemaah Islamiyah, which has also been blamed for several other attacks, including the 2002 Bali bombing, a Marriott hotel blast in the Indonesian capital of Jakarta, and a subsequent explosion at the Australian embassy, which killed 22 people. In other news now from the war on terror, hundreds of U.S. troops, most of them Marines, have been combing through an Iraqi village on the Syrian border today. They've been breaking into suspected terror hideouts, engaging in sporadic firefights, with gunmen hiding among the civilian population. At least 8 of the militants are said to have been killed. Let's go now to Courtney Keeley in Baghdad for the latest on Operation Iron Fist.
Hi, Geraldo. The U.S. military has said it has killed at least 8 insurgents since this operation began. It started on Saturday morning local time in western Iraq. Some 1,000 U.S. soldiers, backed by attack helicopters and warplanes, entered the small town of Sada, 8 miles from the Syrian border, to root out Al-Qaeda terrorists. Clashes with insurgents have been reported by the U.S. military in and around Sada and near the city of Qaim. This area has reportedly been a way station and known sanctuary for insurgents. In the evening, insurgents and Marines clashed in the streets of Sada. Militants drove 2 vehicles towards a U.S. Marine position and then started to attack the position on foot with small arms fire. According to the military, 4 insurgents were killed and a 5th surrendered. A U.S. Cobra helicopter killed 1 insurgent and destroyed 1 car after its driver fired on another Marine position. Most of the residents of the town fled across into Syria, and the town has been sealed off. Residents of Qaim fled the area and are living in a nearby village in tents or deserted government buildings. Some people denied the presence of insurgents, saying that the local residents were just defending their homes. General John Abizadeh, the Central Command Chief, said if things go well and the Iraqi constitution passes, it could lead to elections in December of a legitimate government, and then American forces could start leaving in the spring.
There's a lot of ifs, but if a legitimate government emerges that is broadly seen as being representative of Sunni, Shia, and Kurdish interests, I think that there's no reason to suppose that we can't bring force levels down in the spring.
Al-Qaeda and its Sunni-led insurgents have ramped up the violence ahead of the October 15th yes-no vote on the Constitution. In the last week, 205 people have been killed, including 15 U.S. military personnel. That's the latest from Baghdad. Geraldo, back to you.
Courtney Keeley, thank you. Isn't it amazing the courage these reporters and a young woman like that show, going to Baghdad and being so undaunted by all of this incredible violence? It really is very impressive. Now, to me, folks, you know I love the military. But the problem with Iron Fist and similar operations seems to be that we hit the terrorists hard in their hideouts, but then we leave to return to our bases because, according to our commanders, we just don't have enough personnel to hold the ground. But despite that deficiency, as you just heard, Commanding General John Abizaid of Central Command told Tim Russert today on Meet the Press that he doesn't see any reason we won't be reducing our forces following December's Iraqi elections, assuming successful elections. General Wesley Clark joins us, former NATO commander. General, what am I missing here? I just don't get how we can promise, or even with the ifs that he gave, announce to the American people that there's going to be a drawdown of forces when our commanders on the ground there are saying we don't have enough to hold the ground.
Geraldo, we've never had enough troops in Iraq. That's simply a fact. And if you look at the scale of Anbar province and consider that we've got 1 battalion plus of 1,000 troops out there working on one village in that province, you realize how overwhelming the problem is. But what's missing in the Abizaid statement is the assumption that he's making that the Iraqis are going to be increasingly well trained and will be able to turn over a lot of the fighting to them. The thinking is that with the Iraqi troops coming up and getting better trained and more capable of fighting the insurgents, and that if the Sunnis will participate in the election and if a government will form, that will take the recruiting draw out of the al-Qaeda forces and out of the insurgents. The U.S. forces will leave and the Iraqi government will be able to carry on. It's a theory.
It's a theory, but I think it's a... I hesitate to put it this way, General, but to me, it's very cruel to the families of the GIs serving over there, and I think it's misleading to the American people. I have to be frank with you. Having been there 6 times, I don't think there's any way, absent walking away from that situation. Now, there's only, as I understand it, there's 1 brigade of truly combat-trained, combat-ready Iraqis right now. I don't know. I would guess you need at least 20 to have any hope of holding that violent country against these scum insurgents. They're not insurgents, they're terrorists who blow up anybody. They're attacking Shiite civilians, mothers, women, children. You know, I just don't see it.
Geraldo, I think you're right. I think the mission is in great trouble. It's been in trouble for a while. We never really began it the right way. The military is doing everything they can to hold it together, given the resources they've got. But the problem has always been a diplomatic problem involving Syria and Iran, who want pieces of that country. They want their people to have those pieces. The Kurds really want independence. You're going to see infighting politically between the Kurds and the Shiites. You've got Shiite militia that are fighting each other underneath the presence of the British down in the southern region. So there are explosive tendencies in this country that are liable to break loose on us. What the military is trying to do is stick with the plan. And I honor those troops that serve. I love them. I know General Casey, General Abizaid. They're some of the greatest officers we've ever had in the Army. But this mission never started the right way. It's never had the resources we need. It's never had the leadership at the top. It's never done the diplomacy in the region. And the truth is what General Abizaid said in his testimony on Thursday, that we're part of the problem when we're there. We got to get our troops out of there. We just have to do it the right way so we can leave behind a hope of something better than a seething al-Qaeda recruiting hotbed.
General, I got a final question. I was just with a colonel I was with in Iraq, a wonderful man who suggests that perhaps the trial of Saddam Hussein and his conviction, if he is indeed convicted, and we assume based on the mountain of evidence that there exists against this man and his own words and his own documents, that he will be convicted and ultimately executed, that might be the point of no return for some of the Sunnis to say, hey, wait a second, he's not coming back. The old Ba'athist days are not coming back. Let me jump in on the future. Let me participate. And so at least shred or shed from the insurgency the Sunni mainstream and leave just the Abu Zakari fanatics, that slender minority of Iraqis to fight us?
I'd be surprised. In fact, the Saudi foreign minister was here last week, made a very pessimistic assessment. You heard tonight probably on the wire services, and I think our readers have heard, our listeners have heard that the Kurdish president has called on the Shiite prime minister to get out of the government, saying he's too factional, he's too divisive in the government. This is not going well on the ground. I'm afraid the trial of Saddam Hussein is simply going to aggravate the ethnic tensions. Right. So we've got just a few weeks left to try to put a regional dialogue together around the presence of our troops. We've got to keep the training going, but we've got to have a way to get out of there, keeping in mind the larger problem of the war on terror, the protection of Israel in the region, and all of our other friends who are counting on us to do the job right.
General Wesley Clark, thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Geraldo.
Coming up, the sinking of the Ethan Allen at the cost of 21 lives. And then, who is Ashley Smith, the unlikely angel, and why isn't she going to be busted for possession of dope after this?
The captioning for this program is brought to you by
Floss.
Toss.
Go.
Go.
Floss.
Toss.
Go.
Dentex floss picks.
Floss.
Toss.
Go.
Flossing made easy.
Campbell's Junkie presents tips from Mama McNabb.
Don't eat junky, eat chunky. Chunky chicken noodle soup is loaded with big noodles and big chunks of chicken.
Reminds me when I was little.
When were you little? Campbell's Junkie, it fills you up right.
Paper. We print it,
Copy it.
process it, and turn it into more paper.
Very complicated.
Lexmark has smarter ways to print, move, and manage information. See how at lexmark.com.
It was really dark. The road was icy.
It was really slippery.
We started swerving.
I thought we were going to roll over, but we didn't. It stopped us swerving and keep the car straight.